What do you say to people that think that this is just a fad?
I do agree with people in terms of there are huge numbers of children and young adults being diagnosed. However, I think if you look at that need for that particular person, it's about awareness. Parents are saying, well, I need a diagnosis because of school, and they won't do anything about it if they have a diagnosis. And for me, I turn around and say, the schools should be looking at the need of that particular child. So how are we going to help? It's not really the why, it's the how we're going to support those children. I think ultimately is what you want is a happy child, young adult, and a confident person.
Welcome to Kitchen Tales. This is a podcast where we speak to local business owners that are local to us in West Berkshire and surrounding areas. And my friend and Rona get to catch up. We get to meet amazing people and get to have great conversations. How have you been, Rona?
Good, thank you. We're in May now, aren't we? So
yes,
it's all
we are.
good. It's,
the weather is getting better. I think we were all waiting for the season to change. And spring, summer is fully on its way now.
Yes, good.
And it's just really nice to be able to start thinking all things outdoors. So one of the things that I really like is having dinner al fresco and also having barbecues. So as you know, I was born and raised in Zimbabwe. We don't call them barbecues.
Oh, do you not?
We call them braai.
Braai,
A braai.
okay.
And
yes.
a braai is different to a barbecue in that a braai is, it's almost like, it's a culture, it's a moment, and it's like a good time. In that when you have a braai, you put the meat, you're all surrounding the barbecue stand, charcoal, gas, whatever. Usually it's always charcoal in Zimbabwe. And you all have the food and just have the meat from the barbecue. So it's none of this, you prep all the meat, then you put it on the table, you all sit down on the table and you enjoy. No, you're eating as you go along whilst drinking.
Oh, I see. Oh,
so
that's lovely.
Yeah, so it's really, 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 really nice. And we are actually hosting a braai day for Africa Day. So Africa Day is the 25th of May every single year. And last year we collaborated with the Swan Inn pub. They've got an amazing outdoor area, and we did a big massive braai day, and it was fantastic, and we're doing it again this year.
And does everyone get involved as well?
Everyone gets involved in some of the, well, Z doesn't let anyone on the grill.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's just too many people. But actually that same culture where everyone's around the meat, they're coming, grabbing their meat. We also do some salads and some sides. So so if anyone who's listening wants to come along, just find details on my Instagram page. And it just got me thinking what you like when you're having a barbecue. What do you have for a barbecue?
Lots of different things, but kebabs, chicken or meat kebabs, sausages.
Yeah, always.
Burgers.
Yes.
The kids love burgers.
Yeah.
We have a real mix, actually. So it tends to be a burger, maybe a sausage, but a kebab. Definitely always a kebab.
Always
a chicken,
kebab.
Spicy. Yeah, you know me. I always like to put some spices, some homemade kebabs on there. And then lots of delicious salads.
Yes. I mean, we had our salads masterclass.
We did.
And
went so well.
It really did. And it's just like, I think that's the time when you can really experiment with lots of vegetables and fruit, because some of the salads that we make have got fruit in them. And it's just a great way to do that. So if
it's all the colours as well. We like to actually mix up all the colours. We always have the tomatoes, the pomegranates, the coloured vegetables. Everything that we did actually on our masterclass is tends to come out.
Right?
Yeah, rice salads and
It's great, isn't it?
Yes.
So
What do you like on a barbecue then yourself?
Oh, for us, a chicken. It has to be chicken on the bone. So chicken always, sausages. So we have, in Southern Africa, they have a sausage called boerewors. So boerewors is a mix of pork and beef sausage. That's always on the barbecue.
Yeah, right.
Z and I have been doing a lot of prawns on the barbecue and some sort of fish. So whether it's a salmon, a whole fish that you put like a sea bass or halibut, and then we have it whole on the barbecue. And recently we did some lobster on the barbecue.
Oh, how wonderful.
So just something a bit different.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
So I've never cooked fish on a barbecue.
You should try it.
I should try it.
Especially like white fish.
White fish.
I feel like, especially if you're doing like a charcoal barbecue, that smokiness just adds to the flavour.
Yeah.
It really
so we
adds to the flavour.
we have a charcoal.
Yeah.
Not gas, it's charcoal. And it does enhance all the flavours
really does.
and the smoke. And I'm going to try that with the fish because I haven't tried that. Lobster.
It was really nice. Because I think lobster is overrated. Sorry, don't come for me, guys. But I think it's overrated. But on a barbecue, I can
it's
take
really
it.
good. Where do you get all your fish from?
So I've actually been in touch with, so another fish that I really like is Berkshire trout. So we've got Berkshire trout and I've been getting some of my fish from them. And sometimes I do get it from the supermarkets, but I've actually found a really amazing supplier. I can't think of their name, but they got recommended by Nick, Food by Hope. So they come and deliver. They deliver in Newbury because they deliver to some of the sushi places, and they deliver every single day in Newbury.
It's not Fish Glorious Fish.
That's it.
Yes, that's who I use. They're very, very good.
They're fantastic.
Very, very fresh.
Them. It's really good.
Yes.
So let's get some fish for them for our summer barbecues.
Sounds good.
Yes. So today we have another guest.
We do.
We've been very privileged to have some guests, and we've got Kate Hudson here with us today, and Kate is a neurodevelopmental education specialist.
That's right, I am.
I'm so glad I managed to say that without tripping up. Tell us a little bit more about what that means and who you are, Kate.
So, as you said, I am a neurodevelopmental and educational specialist, which is a bit of a mouthful.
You say it better.
Well, sometimes it comes out really well. And essentially, I offer a sort of whole host of services for families and for children, ranging from sort of 6 right up to 18 years old for the children, so young adults. And I have always been a teacher, and but I specialise within sort of the neurodivergence and neurodiversity. And so the services that I provide are that I have children coming on a one-to-one, and I do specialist tutoring, sort of multisensory, and also just straight tutoring for those who need a super boost in their learning. I provide executive functioning skills for children who potentially are ADHD or have an autistic diagnosis, and also for those that don't, who just find organisation really difficult to manage. I provide success strategies for schools, so that children who find transition between, say, primary to secondary really difficult, or their organisation of the day, or they just sort of find everyday life at school quite challenging. We talk about how we might be able to support that. And I also then help them with revision skills, study skills, anything that's just going to provide them with more confidence in their day. And then I also sort of support families too, because I was finding there were an awful lot of families that were either on that very, very beginning start of the journey before diagnosis, and they just had concerns about where their child potentially wasn't really reaching their potential, or just weren't particularly happy, or lots of different reasons. So I sort of see parents as well and provide advocacy for them and the schools, so that then they're sort of collaborating and working as a team all together. I can diagnose and assess children for specific learning difficulties as well. And currently I'm working a lot with children who are EBSA, so emotionally based school avoidance. So that's taking, quite a lot of time, because there are an awful lot of children who, through trauma, anxiety, for whatever reason, can't find their way back into school. So, and I also support schools, so I provide training for staff. So if there's a particular area within neurodiversity that they're feeling they don't have enough confidence to teach or support those children, I also go into schools and support them. So it's quite busy and it's very diverse. Sorry, that was quite lengthy.
It is fantastic. And it's just really all these different things. Because for me personally, like, I'll take it back a little bit. Growing up and stuff like that, neurodivergence is not something that was talked about as much as it feels like it has now. I'm not too sure whether it's because of the increase in people talking about it in like social media, where we are much more in touch with information. And obviously, like, the technology world, information is very vast and out there. And like, obviously you have people that talk about it in a positive way and a negative way. How have you found that with being somebody that's been in the industry? How long have you been in the industry?
So I've been teaching for about 25 years, dare I say it, maybe even longer. And I think that you've really hit the nail on the head, that I think our awareness has obviously increased. And some people are suggesting that there's overdiagnosis of children, but actually I think it's more about increased awareness and also how children and young adults are navigating their way through this world that we live in with social media and everything. When I first started teaching, actually the reason I sort of got into the world that I'm in is because I loved the teaching world and I loved being with the children, but I was noticing that there were lots of children who were struggling and that there was some support, but there wasn't a lot. So they might be taken out of class for sort of small group intervention. And that was having some kind of positive effect, but actually it potentially wasn't enough for lots of children. And so that's why I sort of then decided to go into the learning support arena, which was within both state and private schools, and then support the children on a one-to-one basis, which when you then build that rapport with children, you build their confidence, you build their trust, and then that confidence oozes out into the whole of their world because they suddenly feel like they're able to achieve and potentially do really, really well, which is what we're trying to do, unlock the potential that these children have and really build their confidence.
Yes, I wish we had this when I was growing up. I really do, because I can absolutely, it was when I was at school, it just wasn't talked about. And I'm sure I'm actually dyslexic and I've never found out whether I am. But, to hear what you're saying is so interesting, that you can help so many children now and also help the families.
Yeah.
Because
and
the families and the schools as well, for families to, just what's wrong with my child? There's something wrong with my child. I don't actually know what it is. For you to come in and just give them support and help.
And I think it's listening to their voice. I mean, children's voices are so important, and I think quite a lot of the time they don't get heard. And I think the same for families. So a lot of families who are really struggling with potentially getting their children to go into school for whatever reason, because they don't have that sort of communication with the school, or the school is saying we are meeting their need. They don't know where to turn. And of course, I don't have all the answers, but I think it's literally just listening to parents and saying, okay, let's break this down and see where we can sort of begin and help your child and you as a unit. Because having a child who struggles in any way, shape or form has such a knock-on effect to the rest of the family unit, because it's really stressful for other people, who are living in that same world. So it's supporting everybody within the family. Those who potentially aren't struggling need to have the support too. So it's really interesting.
But in the state system, they don't get the support.
No.
Which is, it's not good.
Yeah.
And it's easier to go down the private route. And it's expensive for people.
Yeah. And the wait lists are huge.
The wait list is huge.
And I think that this is where I'm seeing a lot of parents and children now who are not getting that support they need, because unfortunately schools are still expecting children to adapt to the school's need rather than the school adapting to children's need. And of course there are, as we were saying, lots more children who are being identified as having difficulties or differences. And they can't, it's very hard for teachers when you've got classes of 30, 35. But equally, those children who then potentially won't go into schools because they are so traumatised or their anxiety is increased and they're masking at school, going home having major meltdowns. It's a really difficult world at the moment, and there isn't really enough being done, although...
No. It must be very frustrating for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating for me because all you want to do is really support them. But equally, I just feel so much for those families who are really going through it. It's really stressful. And the parents are trying to hold down jobs and, it's a lot. And for some parents who I see, it can actually become a full-time job for them. And, one of the parent might have had to give up their job to either stay at home with their child or to navigate through the world of paperwork and, red tape. Essentially.
So I have a daughter who potentially might have learning need, and we navigated through getting HCP for school.
Yeah.
And it took a year for the local authority. This was when she was still in nursery, and it was already identified while she was really young that this might be a thing. So we had been in the system, everything. but it still took a year within the local authority. Do you know why that is the case? Why the local authorities are taking so damn freaking long to be able to provide families? Can you give a bit of an insight of what you know or might know? Why it's taking so long for people to get support?
I think that's often the question that I get asked, how long will it take? And there is an expected time that you should receive your HCP back. There just is not enough funding within the councils. There aren't enough people. There aren't enough, there aren't enough people who actually really know what they're doing as well. No offence to those people who are doing what they're doing and doing a great job. There's just not enough funding. And, all these changes that they're going to put in with the new SEM reform, that's going to come in 3 years, but what's actually happening to the families who are going through it right now? I think that's where we're sort of looking at. So I don't know the magic answer, but I do know that there just is not, and that there's just not enough of anything, and the numbers are increasing. And I think also it depends on the school you're at. Some schools are really supportive and others are not. And
it's postcode lottery sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And that's exactly right. You're absolutely right. It's the postcode lottery, and it shouldn't be like that at all.
Really
that's just wrong, really. I think if I could wave a magic wand, it would be to get all these families supported. But it just takes time. It takes a really long time.
So this is a little bit controversial, but we just have to talk about it, because obviously for me, when I look at things online with some people that have got so many perhaps negative things that they have to say about it, that actually a lot of these children are just being diagnosed because it's an easy route to just diagnose a child ADHD, like they don't actually need it, that can be solved with food, that can be solved with other things. What do you say to that? Because obviously you've been in education for a long time. You see so many families with like complex needs and some needs. What do you say to people that think that this is just a fad, to say that this ADHD, what is that? What does that mean? Because people are saying that, and there are people that truly believe that, this is a bit of a fad. We never had it back in the 80s or 90s. Why all of a sudden do you have it? Is this the COVID jab? I'm just talking about all things, by the way. This is not what I personally believe, but I'm just talking about the things that I read and how some people might be taking why we have an increase. What would you say to people that think like that?
I think you have to look at each child and each family in isolation, because there are, lots of these differing needs are all co-occurring. So, you might have ADHD, but there also might be traits of autism in there. You might have OCD in there. There's a whole host of things which might be, red mark, flags, I suppose, for concerns. I do agree with people in terms of there are huge numbers of children and young adults being diagnosed. However, I think if you look at that need for that particular person, it's about awareness, and it's about how you then deal with those needs. You don't have to have a diagnosis also in order to receive support. So, for example, a couple of children who I've seen, they don't have a diagnosis. Parents are saying, well, I need a diagnosis because of school, and they won't do anything about it if they have a diagnosis. And for me, I turn around and say, the school should be looking at the need of that particular child and saying, okay, they are presenting with traits of ADHD. They find it very difficult to sit still. They have these sort of major meltdowns or can't regulate their emotions. So how are we going to help? It's not really the why, it's the how we're going to support those children. And I think that's what I would say to anybody who's challenging it, and just saying, yes, there are lots of people, but it's awareness, it's raising awareness and taking each person in isolation and really thinking, what is their need and how can we address that for them to go on and thrive, providing tools and strategies, because when they leave school, they're going to be in that big wide world and they're going to need to know how to deal with themselves on a day-to-day basis in order for them to feel happy. I think ultimately is what you want, is a happy child, young adult and a confident person.
That's really good.
I think a lot of it's social media as well.
Oh yes.
Huge amount.
It is.
Huge amount.
Absolutely. And it's like, so what would you say to somebody who's like, I don't know how to deal with somebody who's ADHD or whatever other diagnosis. What do I do? How would you be able to support that person to be able to support somebody who might have a need?
So are you talking parents particularly?
Parents. Parents particularly. They're like, okay, my child, I think, or my child has got this diagnosis. How am I able to support my child? What do I need to do? Because most people are like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, how would you approach that?
So I think I would ask them, what is being presented, what other behaviours, and keep a pattern, of that. So maybe keep a journal of when those things are happening, particularly when it becomes to controlling emotions and things that can often happen. And is there a pattern? So does it happen on a Wednesday, when a Wednesday morning before school, because they know they've got swimming in the afternoon, they're really not very keen on their swimming? Is it always that day, or is it on Friday when they're absolutely exhausted because they've held it together all week at school, and Friday is the day when it's like, real meltdown? So definitely keeping a journal is really important. Starting to articulate emotions, really talking about it as a family, to sort of say it's okay in the morning. Sometimes we're all trying to get out the door and we're feeling a bit frazzled because we've got to get to work and perhaps we're running late, to actually say, oh, do you know what, this morning I felt absolutely exhausted, so that you're all sharing those emotions. Or I think it's also really important, if you do, as we know, sometimes when things do get a bit much, it's very easy to potentially, lose your temper or just get a bit frazzled with other people around you, to then say later, I'm really sorry I behaved like that, so that then you're really discussing it. And then the child or young adult or whoever it is who's really struggling with their emotions at that moment then feels more comfortable to be able to say, oh, I think I feel a bit like this. But preempting it as well. So do you see when the patterns of behaviour change? Is it a hormonal difficulty, particularly with girls, when they're going through the teenage sort of years? I think boys as well, there's a lot of testosterone. I've got 3 boys at home. I've seen it. And that really, really can affect behaviours. So I think it's watching for signs. I think watching for patterns of behaviour. And then I think at those moments, then I would sort of say, is it affecting that person on a day-to-day basis? How is it affecting them? And how can we then think about putting in the support? Okay. And that might be talking about emotional regulation with that child. And that's what I do a lot of with the children that I see, sort of even just with colours. How are you feeling today? Oh, I feel a bit, blue. What does that mean for you? And what happens in your body? What's actually physically happening? Because I don't think... none of us find it very easy to talk about emotions, I think. Well, some people do it more than others. But when you're a child, you don't actually have the vocabulary or the words to really know what that means. So it's building that. It's talking. Communication is key.
Yes. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Very fascinating.
Learning a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if anyone is trying to book you or look at looking at your services, where can they find you and how can they approach?
Yeah, of course. So I have a website which is katehudson.co.uk, and then also, and on that then all of my different services are provided on there, and I always have a free initial consultation, sort of 10-15 minutes, so that then I can understand the need of the parents or the child or young adult, and then we can work out what's best, really what's best suited. And then I have a Instagram page which is Kate Hudson Teaching, and those are the best ways really to get hold of me.
Is that how the schools and everyone can be able to contact you as well if
absolutely.
they need to?
And I provide the sessions at home in my own home office, or sometimes in London as well. I work out of practice in London and a bit in Basingstoke too, or online. So there's a whole host of different ways of being able to do it, and I find with the older students that online works really well for them, because it might be that they're at school and they can do it in their study periods. But I provide whatever's needed for the children. And are you based locally to Newbury, or where are you based? Yes, so Chapel Row. So just outside Newbury. So very local.
Very local.
Yes.
That is absolutely fantastic.
And before we go, we always ask our guests what you're having for dinner tonight.
Well, I love cooking, so I spend a lot of time in the kitchen, and having boys, I have to do quite a lot of catering. Bulk. Yes, in bulk. But actually, we had a roast yesterday, so I tend to use whatever we've kind of got left over, and it was roast chicken. So I have made a stock, and I'm going to do a really wholesome chicken noodle soup.
Oh, that's nice.
Evening for supper, because
delicious.
It's quite easy, but it's full of goodness, full of ginger, full of spice.
Oh, lovely! That sounds really nice.
To ward off any germs as well, I think.
Exactly.
So,
that's really good.
Yes.
What are you having, Colleen, tonight?
So for me, we're just talking about barbecues. Whenever it's dry, We've been known to do that even in winter. We do turn the barbecue on.
That's brave.
Yeah, and we're doing that today. And we're actually doing one where we are experimenting with vegetables. So just from courgette, butternut squash, sweet potato, and just seeing how those actually behave in different ways of how to make them on a barbecue. And we're going to be putting some tofu as well. And yeah, doing like a veggie, vegan barbecue. So that's what we're doing.
Can I ask about your tofu?
Yes.
What tofu do you use?
So for me, I use any brand that's a firm one. So it has to be a very firm tofu. So there's a brand actually called Tofu, TOFOO, I think that's how you spell it. I quite like those ones. But also, see, I'm plugging these brands that should be sponsoring us.
Yes.
Lidl have got a brand that I really like, and they've started doing some flavored tofu. One with basil, another one that just says marinated tofu. I find that really good.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the best ones that I've used
that's
really
good to
recently.
know because I cannot find a good one, and the cheaper brands are not good at all. So
try those ones.
I'll try those.
And like I've tried frying them, I've tried putting them on the barbecue, and I think for me personally, they perform really, really well. So try that. We should probably ask Jim and Kate, because I know they're vegan. They'll probably have some good.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Good suggestions of where to get some of the best tofu.
Yeah.
How about you? What are you having?
We're having a prawn stir fry tonight. And I've got a sauce that I'm going to probably make up. I haven't actually quite decided which sauce we're going to have. Maybe a teriyaki or something like that. So lots of vegetables and colour.
Like that.
And prawns.
Yes.
So that's us
Very
tonight.
delicious.
That's tonight. So thank you very much, Kate.
Thank you for having me.
And you're actually joining us on our breakfast masterclass as well.
Yes,
so I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
That's the one you're doing with Edwina, isn't it?
Edwina, yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yes. Yeah, I think you'll learn a lot, I think.
Excellent.
So yes.
That's
We'll see you there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Kitchen Tales today. You can find us on all your social media channels, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcast.